The case you're about to see is a fictitious one, but the procedure is legally accurate. The characters are played by actors, but the jury is made up of members of the general public.
The accused opened the door of one of the garages in the alley, which I could see contained a number of cases, which were subsequently identified as 52 cases of gin, whiskey and vodka, which have been stolen from lorries belonging to Galton's Warehousing Limited on the Fulchester turn-off of the M6 on November the 28th.
George Granger is accused at Fulchester Crown Court of dishonestly receiving £3,000 worth of spirits, knowing this to be stolen property. He has pleaded not guilty. Detective Sergeant Street gives evidence of the arrest.
The accused lifted up one of the cases to carry out to his van. As he did so, Detective Constable Harvey and myself made our presence known and asked him where he had obtained the spirits.
And what did he reply?
Off licence, round the corner, where do you think?
He was presumably being flippant.
Yes, my lord. I then cautioned him and arrested him.
Did he say anything after being cautioned?
You're not nicking me. I've got the goods on you. I've got my notes on you, you two-faced git. You sod. I'll see you inside yourself for this. He then added, let me off the hook on this one, and I'll let you have my Watergates.
Watergate, Sergeant?
Well, apparently some tapes he claimed to have made of conversations he'd had with us.
He offered you these tapes if you dropped the charge against him?
Yes, my lord.
He tried to bribe, or rather blackmail you. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes, that is right.
I see. That's right. When did you say you wrote up your notes?
Oh, just after the charge sheet had been filed, my lord, about 3 hours after the arrest.
I see, thank you. All right, Mr. Fry.
I've no further questions. Thank you, my lord.
Detective Sergeant Street, can we go back to the moment when Mr. Granger drives up to his garage? You were where exactly?
We'd been following him by car, madam. We left the car and observed his actions from the entrance to the alley.
Did he attempt to run away?
They wouldn't have got very far.
Did he make any attempt to?
No, madam.
Now, when he first saw you, his first words were, am I glad to see you, were they not?
No, madam. I don't recollect him saying that at all.
And he also said, did he not, I've been trying to get hold of you for the past hour?
No.
Well, do you agree that he was extremely indignant and surprised when you arrested him?
Yes, it's not unusual.
Even when you catch someone apparently red-handed?
Even then, madam.
Had Mr. Granger actually placed any of the cases in his van?
Yes, he was about to.
What? Now, you told my colleague that the accused lifted up one of the cases...
To carry out to his van.
That's your assumption, isn't it?
Mrs. Harker, as both the garage and the van belong to Mr. Granger, does it make any difference whether he was carrying, lifting, or even sitting on one of these cases?
My lord, it's my client's contention that these cases were placed in his garage without his knowledge, and that he fully intended to report the matter to the police, and yet the witness has just said that he'd lifted up these cases and put them in his van.
Yes, I see. All right, go on.
But he could have been inspecting them, couldn't he?
He had lifted the case up, had turned round and was moving towards the van when he saw us.
Could you see him clearly?
I could.
What time was this?
Just after midnight.
That alleyway's not lit, is it?
No, but he had his headlights full on, blazing into the garage.
Ah, the van was facing into the garage.
Yes.
Was there anything in the van?
Toys, pots and pans, knickknacks, the like.
Mr. Granger's own property?
So far as I know, madam, yes.
And you're asking this court to believe, are you, Sergeant, that he was about to load up an already loaded van which he hadn't even bothered to back up to the garage?
It was half-loaded, madam. There was plenty of room to put the cases in. And I think he drove front in because there wasn't a light in the garage. No, in fact, that's right, there wasn't.
How did you come to follow Mr. Granger to the garage?
He'd been under surveillance for several days preceding the incident.
Why?
We suspected that he was implicated in the crime.
When were the spirits stolen?
November the 28th.
Mr. Granger was arrested just after midnight on the following day, but you knew all about this several days before it happened.
We had information of a job going off, yes.
From whom?
There's an informant in this case, is there, Mr. Fry?
Informants, my lord.
My lord, if I may, it's my client's contention that he was the principal, if not the sole, source of information in this case.
Are you suggesting that Mr. Granger was arrested as the result of a tip-off from himself, Mrs. Harker?
There is rather more to it than that, my lord.
Mr. Granger gave you some information about this crime previous to it, did he?
Mostly misleading, my lord.
Never mind just now whether it was misleading or not. You used him as an informant.
For a short time, yes, my lord.
I see. Right. Mrs. Harker, you're going to put your client's role as a police informer?
When did you start using Mr. Granger as an informer?
It was August the 8th that he first volunteered information.
Oh, he volunteered it, did he?
Yes.
How did that happen? How did that happen?
The accused was at Circus Street Police Station over some small matter, and seeing us, he suggested that he might help us over one or two matters.
Did he help you?
He gave us information which led to the recovery of £1,000 worth of stolen stereo cassette recorders.
Did he receive a reward for that? Did he receive a reward, Sergeant?
Answer the question, Sergeant.
Oh, I believe the insurance loss adjuster paid him £100, yes.
Did you then ask him to help you further?
Well, the defendant said he had knowledge of a big one, a warehouse job, about £25,000 worth of spirits. He had a contact, Mick, he said, who was on the lookout for prospective buyers, and the defendant suggested that he posed as a buyer.
You agreed to this?
No, certainly not.
You talked about the possibility.
Yes, well, we talked about it, yes.
You encouraged him to act as a receiver, Sergeant?
Lord, talking about the possibility of Mr. Granger posing as a buyer is scarcely encouraging him to act as a receiver.
I see no difference, my lord.
Well, if there's no difference, Mrs. Harker, keep to posing as a buyer, will you?
Yes, my lord. Now, you encouraged Mr. Granger to talk to associate with Mick. Would you agree to such a possibility?
Well, we said we'd be interested in what he was up to, yes.
And when you were talking to Mr. Granger about him possibly posing as a buyer, a specific sum was mentioned, was it not?
Yes, but the whole idea was chat, simply speculative chat. It never got off the ground.
What sum was mentioned, Sergeant?
£3,000 worth.
Tell the court again, would you, the value of the property recovered from Mr. Granger's lock-up garage?
£2,956 retail.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Sergeant, what information did Granger glean for you from this person referred to as Mick?
He told us that a raid was planned on Galton's warehouse in Beach Street. The gang had copies of stock control documents, warehouse layout. They even knew the make of forklift trucks. It all checked out as absolutely 100% genuine.
It was the quality of this talk that led to this idea of his posing as a buyer, is that right?
Oh, yes. It was an obvious option to be considered. But we never put it into operation in any way at all.
Why not?
Well, first, sir, such a scheme involving a participating informant has to be cleared by a senior officer.
Yeah.
It all has to be checked absolutely thoroughly. And what stopped us was, well, the way he described Mick.
How was that?
Well, he said he was 5'11", dark curly hair, ears sticking out, 35, Liverpool Irish.
Liverpool Irish. It's a fairly precise description, Sergeant.
Oh, yes, my lord, the description is precise enough. The only problem is that the person described happened to be in prison at the time Mr. Granger claimed to be meeting him.
Detective Constable Harvey, when you thought you could identify Mick as someone who was in prison, what was your reaction?
Well, Granger was definitely giving us a runaround, sir. No question. He'd give us a lot of hard details about this robbery that was going to come off. And they were hard. But he wouldn't identify. And that was useless. The person he said was Mick had been arrested in Scotland. He didn't know that, you see. That was very fortuitous for us.
Yes, I see that. So what did you do?
Well, the defendant immediately became a suspect, and we wouldn't have dreamt of using him as a participating informant.
And this posing as a buyer idea?
Oh, out of question, sir.
You tell him that?
Oh, yes, sir.
When?
Well, our request information came through from Glasgow CID on, 21st of November. Yeah, well, on that same evening at about 7:15, we went round to the accused flat and asked him for the true identity of Mick, which he refused to reveal.
He admitted that he'd lied about this then, did he?
Oh, he did so, yes. I warned him that I suspected that he was trying to back both horses, and that if he continued to do so, I...
Just a minute.
Would have no...
Back both horses.
Yeah. Well, if the robbery came off, he'd get a cut from the thieves. If it didn't, he'd hang around for the reward money.
When did you next see the accused?
Well, we kept him under observation, sir. I next personally saw him when I jointly arrested him with Detective Sergeant Street on the 29th of November.
Thank you.
Can you please tell the court what are the conditions when a reward is given for stolen property?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, it's a straightforward enough question.
Yes. Well, rewards. Well, the insurance company usually gives 10% for information leading to the recovery of goods, and usually to a conviction.
You said that Mr. Granger was backing both horses, the thieves and the police.
That's right, it was, yes.
You also said that he withheld information. He would never identify the criminals involved.
No, he wouldn't.
Isn't that inconsistent with backing both horses? And if he didn't name the criminals, how could they be convicted on his information? And if they were not so convicted, how could he claim a reward?
Yeah, I said usually.
It would be unusual, then, for him to get a reward without a conviction.
Yes. But it depends how he sees it, doesn't it? What he thinks he can get away with.
I suggest it's rather the way that you look at things, isn't it? Now, these stereo cassette recorders for which Mr. Granger received £100 reward, was there a conviction in connection with this theft?
No, the insurance company wanted to pay it.
On your recommendation?
Yeah. It was justified. We were convinced Granger could help us with a major inquiry which would benefit both us and the insurance people.
Very irregular, wasn't it? Recommending a reward in anticipation of arrest?
No, goods in connection with that sum had been recovered. Because at that time we thought Granger was sound and a valuable contact with the criminals that we were after. I mean, these days you have to set a thief to catch a thief, don't you?
Constable Harvey, you must not make imputations like that against the defendant, as well you know.
Sorry, my lord, it slipped out. Very sorry.
My lord, I have no objection. It's impossible for me to put my client's case without discussing his criminal record.
As you wish, Mrs. Harker.
You knew Mr. Granger before this affair, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
How?
I'd arrested him.
On what charge?
Receiving. 1974, I think.
And you came across him again in August of 77 at a Sunday market, a Crossgates market, where he had a store.
Well, I bumped into him, yeah.
Well, you questioned him, you searched his van.
I asked him whether he'd seen any stolen cassette recorders about the market. Well, same as I might have asked anybody. I certainly didn't search him. He just showed me the stuff he was selling on his stall, that was all.
But a week later, Mr. Granger was at the station being questioned about an infringement of the Sunday trading laws. Did you have anything to do with that charge?
No. Scarcely a CID matter, madam.
But you offered to get the charge dropped in exchange for information, didn't you?
Of course I didn't, no.
Well, the words you used were talk or it's inside for you. Is that not so?
No.
Detective Constable Harvey, on the 18th of October, you went to the defendant's flat in Lemon Place.
Yes, that's right, I did, yes.
Will you listen to this, please, my lord? Exhibit 6, October the 10th, tape recording. Band 1, please, Usher.
You will be introducing evidence to show how these tapes were made, where they were kept and by whom?
Yes, my lord.
Right.
Well, there you go.
How do you mean, there you go, Squire? How do you mean? You mean the charge is going to go through?
It's not our pigeon, is it? Justice must take its rightful course, George.
I've told you what I can.
Oh, hollow laughter, George. You've told us sod all. I don't know why he doesn't run you in on a withholding. It's his kind heart. Because, quite frankly, we know you've had offers, son. And you say you've never put up the ante.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Well, if you haven't, tell us who's making the offers, son. I do try hard to trust you, but these sodding doubts will keep crossing my mind. You keep playing about.
I'm not playing about.
And you'll be the one to pick up the ticket.
Yeah, 4 stretch, Dick. What do you think?
Oh, yes. With your antecedents, I should think a 4 stretch is about right. And the others will be laughing.
Never mind. George will take the rap.
Good old George.
Come on, Dick.
Hang about.
No, I've had enough. Come on.
Cassette recorders.
Oh, ancient history.
No. No, I hear they're still floating. This fella, Mick.
Do you recognise your voice on that tape?
Who will testify about this tape?
The defendant and a Miss Angela Barton. She will say that she saw the witness both enter and leave the flat. She then played the recording and sealed it.
Is your voice on that tape?
Yes, my lord.
Well, let's get on then.
Justice must take its rightful course. What did you mean by that?
Well, if Granger had done something wrong, he must pay for it.
It was a threat, wasn't it?
No.
It was a threat in order to get him work for you, wasn't it?
We were after information. There've been a lot of serious crimes. I mean, when those lorries were hijacked, the drivers were clubbed over the head. One of them spent 3 weeks in hospital. Well, the defendant had information. You heard him say so at the end. We weren't going to get that with polite questions, were we?
Exhibit 7, my lord. Thursday, November the 10th. Band 2, please, Usher.
George here could put himself down for some.
Bloody dangerous.
Bloody dangerous, but we could nick them all at it and then some fairy out and we're blue-eyed, aren't we?
I don't know. It's, How much would an operator like you put himself down for, George?
I don't operate, for God's sake.
Like you, George, like you.
Oh, sensitive, sensitive.
Yeah, well. All right. Someone my size would score a lump, give or take, I don't know, inflation since I was £3 grand.
What would you pay for it?
Offer 7.5, go to a grand and a bit, use cockles and jacks.
You see, John, without George here, we're working in the dark. In the dark.
When about? Well, you must know when about.
I don't know when about, do I? I'll just come on a blower and...
You're not going to send him a bleeding advice, though, are they, John?
If this comes off, will you tear up the other thing?
Look, George, if you're on the level, you can hang the charge sheet up in a small room. We don't want to lock you up. But tempus fugit. We've got to lock someone up on his job soon. Mick. Or someone. You do understand what I mean, son, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I understand, all right.
You can hang the charge sheet up in the small room. Well, you were bribing him, weren't you? You associate with these criminals, pose as a buyer, and we'll drop this charge.
I wasn't bribing him to associate because he was already associating.
Well, what evidence do you have of that?
He told us about the cassette recorders, didn't he?
This plan we've been listening to was for Granger to pose as a buyer for spirits, £3,000 worth.
Well, we're flying a kite. We couldn't have possibly gone ahead with a plan like that, not without permission from a superior officer.
You're referring to the Home Office circular to the police, which states that a decision to use a participating informant should be taken at a senior level.
Yes.
Speaking generally for a moment, if a police officer of your rank took such a decision on his own account, he might be severely disciplined, might he not?
Oh, yes.
His career with the CID might even be jeopardised.
Maybe, yes. But it would never have come to that with Granger, because we'd found out that he was concealing Mick's real identity.
This is when you went to see him on November the 21st.
That's right, yeah.
But in due course, he did tell you who Mick really was, didn't he?
No.
Well, he will say that he did.
Well, then he'd be lying then, wouldn't he?
Well, you continued to talk to him about this plan for trapping criminals, didn't you?
Well, how could we? I mean, how could we go ahead with a plan like that when we'd found out he'd lied to us? I mean, if you don't mind me saying so, that is a ridiculous suggestion.
Will you listen to this, please, my lord? I apologise for the quality of this recording. The defendant only will testify to the tape and say it was made on November the 21st of 77, when Detective Sergeant Street and Detective Constable Harvey went to his flat unannounced. Exhibit 8, please, band 3, Usher.
It's a bloody pity.
Oh, there you go.
You're a silly sod, George, a really stupid animal.
Leave him, come
What do you want to protect those bastards for, huh?
I'm protecting myself.
You'll get protection.
Like hell.
Who is it? Who the hell is it?
You gotta be scared of.
Names, George. Names. Who is this bloody Mick? Come on, George. You've given us a run around for long enough. I'm sick and tired of you holding out us. Either you...
Do you remember that moment at the end?
Yes, I remember losing my temper, yes. Deliberately.
And deliberately?
Oh, yes. It was a controlled outburst.
Really? But you hit Mr. Granger. Was that also in a controlled sort of a way?
I did not hit him.
He will say that you did.
Of course he will.
What was the bang at the end?
I've got no idea.
No idea.
That is what I said, yes, I have no idea.
I'm sick and tired of you holding out on us either... Well, either what?
Well, if I remember correctly, either you tell us who Mick really is or we'll charge you with withholding information.
And since he didn't tell you, you're still asserting that, are you?
He did not tell us.
Well, then why on earth didn't you charge him?
Well, it's just we thought he was more used to us outside. I mean, I know that sounds irregular too, but we thought if we gave him enough rope, he'd end up hanging himself. And possibly a few of his friends as well. We kept him under surveillance.
You like to take risks, do you?
Well, I don't like to, but sometimes to do the job you have to, you know.
We've got to lock up someone, and soon. The pressure was on you, wasn't it?
Usually is, madam.
There's been a long series of these warehouse break-ins without any arrests.
Yeah?
And Granger was your best lead, wasn't he?
Oh, he was a lead, yeah.
Oh, come on, Detective Constable. Here was a man who'd given you what you call definitely hard information, 100% genuine about a forthcoming robbery. You're not going to let him go so easily, are you? A man of your caliber?
We kept him under observation.
I suggest you kept him working for you. I suggest you went there on November the 21st, determined that you were still going to use him, and set out, in your controlled sort of a way, deliberately to beat out of him Mick's real name.
We did not touch him.
Detective Constable Harvey, breaking this gang was extremely important to you, wasn't it?
It was very important, yeah.
So important that I put it to you that you bullied the name from the defendant and continued to discuss with him this scheme for trapping criminals, using him as a prospective buyer, and then, when it all went badly wrong, as we shall hear later, arrested him, so that you didn't have to suffer the consequences of your risky and highly dubious methods.
That is an impossible suggestion. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be allowed to use a person who'd lied to us like that.
Detective Constable Harvey, when you arrested the defendant, did he refer to these tapes, which we've now heard?
Oh, yes, he did, sir. He said we couldn't arrest him because he could prove he was working for us.
Did he threaten you with these tapes?
He said he'd have us thrown out the force, sir. I mean, that's why he got some well-intentioned do-gooder to come and plant the tape recorder as a cover for himself. He knew we were suspicious of him when we went round there to talk about trapping the gang. So he set out to trap us.
And yet you had no hesitation in bringing forward this charge?
No, sir, we did not.
When you observed the defendant drive up to his garage just after midnight on November the 29th, what did he do, or what did he appear to be doing?
He was carrying out a case to his van. He was in a tearing hurry, not looking at it. He just wanted to get the stuff away somewhere. Thought he was safe, you see, sir. Either he gets away with it, or he's got the tapes as an insurance policy.
Join us again tomorrow when the case of the Queen against Granger will be resumed in the Crown Court.
Are you George Peter Granger of 9 Lemon Place, Fulchester? And are you a market trader?
Yeah,
How old are you, Mr. Granger?
31.
George Granger is accused at Fulchester Crown Court of dishonestly receiving stolen goods. He's pleaded not guilty, alleging that the goods, £3,000 worth of whisky, gin and vodka, came into his possession as a result of working as an informant for the police in a scheme devised by Detective Sergeant Street and Detective Constable Harvey, and that he intended to return the stolen goods. Granger's counsel has elected to disclose his client's long criminal record to the court.
And when did your last prison sentence end?
Mr. Granger?
Forget it.
Forget what? What's he saying?
Let's get it over with, eh? What's the point?
Mrs. Harker, does your client mean that he wishes to change his plea?
May I perhaps have a word with him, my lord?
Yes, it could be of great assistance to us all. Look, would you leave the witness box for a minute, Granger? Officer, take him over to his counsel, would you?
Are you saying that you meant to keep the spirits?
Oh, for God's sake, girl, of course I didn't.
Then you're not guilty.
That's not the point, is it? It's who they're going to believe. And look at all the stuff that's going to come out.
You mustn't plead guilty if what you've told me is true.
All right.
My lord, may I tender my client's apologies for delaying proceedings?
Is he changing his plea?
No, my lord. My client's doubts are not about his innocence, but about his capacity to prove it. His experience in court to date has induced in him a certain feeling of inevitability.
Mr. Granger, your previous record, which your counsel has introduced, presumably with your agreement, is bound to influence the jury. But it doesn't make the result of this trial inevitable, one way or the other. I shall direct to the jury to decide it on the evidence produced here, and that alone. Do you understand?
Yes, my lord.
Right.
I'm sorry to...
No, that's right. Now, listen. Now, you've pleaded not guilty. Does that still stand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's get on now.
When did your last sentence end?
I come out of Coombe Prison in January 1976.
Have you been in trouble since then?
No. I've gone as straight as the police had let me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they pushed me into informing, didn't they?
How did that happen?
Well, when I got out, I gets myself set up as a swag man, see?
What? What?
A swag man, pitcher.
So,
Flogging toys and electricals in the market. You know, a little demo, a bit of patter. Not £3, lady, not £2, not
yes.
£1,
Yes.
but
Oh,
75 quid.
Yes, I understand. Right, thank you. Right.
Sorry. Anyway, it was one Sunday afternoon in August, it was. I was minding my own business, and suddenly out of nowhere pops Hardy saying, long time no see.
Hardy?
Detective Constable Harvey, sorry. They're known as Laurel and Hardy. Sorry. Anyway, he asked me if I'd seen any cassette recorders with no homes to go to.
No home, you mean stolen, do you?
That's right, my lord. Anyway, I says no, but he says, well, I'm going to turn you over anyway.
Without a warrant?
Oh, yeah, of course. He needs a warrant. Anyway, he finds nothing. But the next Sunday, this young copper comes down, uniformed, and nicks me for not being Jewish. I think it's just another one of them purges they have, and so I don't think nothing of...
Just one moment, just a second. Nicked for not being Jewish?
Yeah. Trading on a Sunday without being Jewish. You see, Governor, you have to be Jewish in order to rent a stall. Jewish or a Seventh-day Adventist or the World Church of God.
1950. Yes, thank you very much. I do know that. Right. Go on.
Anyway, I think's nothing of it until I gets down to Circus Street Police Station and I find out that Laurel and Harvey and Street are in on it. And they says they're going to see me away for perjury. Because you have to swear this affidavit thing to say you're Jewish, like, and I've done that. Now, normally you get a fine, but you can get put away, and that's what they said they'd do to me unless I give them a whisper on the warehouse job.
They said that just like that, did they?
Well, no, it was dressed up.
But that was the impression you got.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, all right. All right, Mr. Harker.
What did you say to all this?
I says I don't know nothing about no warehouse jobs. But that ain't good enough for them, is it? Oh, no, they says you can find out, can't you? So I says, all right, I'll help them. Otherwise, I'd have found myself back inside. I'd have lost the van, the store and everything I've been working.
Just tell the court what you did to help them.
Mr. Granger?
It sounds so stupid.
Never mind what it sounds like, just answer counsel's question.
All right. Well, when you're in the markets, you do get offers.
Of stolen property?
All the time. But I turned every one of them down since I've been going straight, and that's the truth. But when they starts leaning on me, I figure the best thing to do is pick up on one of these offers and dump the stuff where I know they can find it. So I hear these cassette recorders are still going around on account of Shaw Taylor giving them the publicity, so I picks them up for next to nothing and dumps them in this squat what I know has been a bent house. And then I realised what I'd done. I was in it again. I was handling. Well, I didn't know what to do, so I phones up Miss Barton.
Miss Barton?
My voluntary associate.
Would you tell the jury what that is, please?
Well, she's a sort of prison visitor sort of thing. She helps you when you're in and when you get out.
And what was Miss Barton's reaction?
She didn't believe me. She thought I was up old tricks.
So?
So I says, cool, I wish I could record them like. And she says, why don't you? Simple, really. I never thought of it.
That was the origin of the tape recordings that this court has heard?
Yeah.
Come on, cassette recorders. Oh, ancient history.
No. I hear they're still floating. This fella, Mick.
Mick who?
I don't know, he's new.
What's he look like?
What's he look like?
Yes. What's he look like?
Irish. Irish, from the pool, I think. About 35, black curly bonds and his ears stick out.
Sounds lovely.
Where does he live?
Squat, 7 Kitchener Street.
Miss Barton organised this tape, did she?
Yeah.
If you were getting help from her, why did you go through with the deception about the tape recorders?
I don't know. But I already had them, see? And I thought wherever I got recorded, they could still pin it on me if they wanted.
The description you gave of Mick was false.
Yeah.
But it was a description of somebody that they would recognise.
Yeah. But I thought he was safe. Because he'd been in Scotland for, 6 months by then, and I thought by the time they catch up with him, everything would be hunky-dory. But, you know, these things just sort of slip out off the top of your head when they're getting at you like that.
Why didn't you tell them who Mick really was?
I'll get marked.
Marked? You were in fear of reprisals.
I was afraid of getting me
What?
bloody head knocked
I
off.
can't hear what you're saying.
Yes.
All right, Mrs. Harker.
When Detective Constable Harvey and Detective Sergeant Street had recovered these stolen recorders, did that satisfy them?
Nah, they come back to squeeze some more. Anyway, I hear about this job coming off down at Gorton's warehouse, so I tip them off. And the next thing I know is they're talking about setting me up as a buyer.
What was your reaction?
Well, I says I'll talk about it because they're squeezing me all the time. So I meets Mick in the pub and he says, how much can you take? And I say £3,000.
You agreed to receive £3,000 worth of stolen spirits?
Yeah. But if you want to get the information, you've got to do the job properly.
You have to take the part that you're playing seriously.
Well, of course you do, girl.
And this was a part that you were playing for the police, wasn't it?
Well, of course it was.
What date was this when you met Mick?
Oh, I don't know. I've been trying to remember. It was somewhere in the week of November the 14th, but I can't remember better than that.
Do you remember what happened on the evening of November the 21st?
Oh, yeah. I remember that all right.
Names, George. Names. Who is this bloody Mick? Come on, George. You've given us a run around for long enough. I'm sick and tired of you holding out us. Why do you...
Now, that recording was made by you on the 21st of November.
Yeah. They came bashing at the door and I didn't have time to set the mic up properly.
I'm sick and tired of you holding out on us either... Well, do you remember how Detective Constable Harvey finished that sentence?
Yeah. Either you tell us who Mick really is or the deal's off.
The deal being?
Being that I act as a buyer and they drop any charges against me.
Now, that recording was... Well, it comes to an abrupt end. What happened?
Well, he threw me across the room and I bashed into this table and it broke the mic. Street pulled him off.
Mr. Granger, when they left you that evening, you had the 3 tapes which this court has heard. Why didn't you turn them over to the authorities?
Because I had to go along with them then, didn't I?
Detective Sergeant Street and Detective Constable Harvey?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I needed police protection then, didn't I? Because I told him who Mick really was, hadn't I? I was scared. Because I was right in it then. Well, I really was a police informer, wasn't I? I tells Harvey and Street that as far as I know, the job's going off at the beginning of December. But they blew the whole thing. They put a surveillance on the warehouse. And the inside man, a bent security guard, gets the frights and tips off the gang, who then switches to hijacking the lorries delivering the stuff instead of the warehouse.
This was?
November the 28th. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know what was going on until I'm in the pub and Mick comes up to me
What
says,
time was this?
I don't know, about closing time. I'm a bit pissed by then. And from then on in, it's bleeding comedy half hour. Mick says the job's gone off and he's delivered.
Where?
In my flaming garage. I mean, he's desperate to get shut of the stuff and he can't find me. He thinks my garage is a safe drop, so he dumps it, then comes looking for me. What am I going to say? I can't say I don't want the booze, can I? The police ain't ready for the change in plan, so could he come back next week, please? No. I've got to pretend I'm delighted, buy the boy a drink. Well, as soon as I could, I phoned the station, right?
The police station?
Yeah. Of course, Harvey and Street ain't there. I suppose I should have realised that they'd heard about the hijacks and was out looking for me, but I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, so I jumps into a taxi, goes back to my place, picks up the van and drives back to the lockup. And there I am, standing, staring at this mountain of booze, and they jumps on me.
And were you loading a case onto your van?
No, I just picked one up to have a look at it. And I had nowhere to take them. Where would I take them?
Did you mention the tapes?
Of course I did. I said it's laughable. It's laughable, I said. I have got it on record that we are in this deal, and you can't drop me in it without dropping yourselves in it and all.
And did you threaten them?
Did I what?
Threaten them.
What, me threaten them? You've got to be joking. All I said was, I've got it on tape that we are in this deal and you can't pin it on me because I've got these tapes.
Mr. Granger, when you were in the pub hearing about the stolen goods, when you looked at them in your garage, was it your intention at any time to conceal them from the police and to sell them?
Well, no, of course it wasn't. I mean, how could I, anyway, with them watching me? Don't make sense. And I deal in toys, electricals, nice dinner sets, not booze. No, it wasn't. No. No.
Thank you, Mr. Granger.
Mr. Granger,
Sweet.
this latest connection with the police was made when you swore a statutory declaration that you are Jewish. Are you Jewish?
On my mother's side.
Your mother is Jewish.
Not exactly, but her cousin went out with...
The affidavit was false. Thank you.
Oh, come on, everybody in the market gets round it. Do you think the Pakistanis are Jewish?
These cassette recorders, which you planted in a squat, you told the police that they'd been put there by someone else.
Yeah, well, that was the point, to get the police off my back.
I see. Come. When you described Mick to the police, you said that he was about 35, Liverpool Irish, with black curly hair and sticking out ears. Well, there is some doubt about his ears, but we now know for a fact that Mick is in his early 20s, has fair hair and comes from Yorkshire, don't we?
Yeah. But I couldn't tell him then who he really was.
Why not?
Because I'd have been got at.
Or because you were working with him?
No, that isn't true.
Isn't it? Now, I suggest to you, Mr. Granger, that your instinctive reaction when you're in a tight corner is to lie your way out of it.
No, it isn't. I told him who Mick was.
You mean you claim you did? Yeah. Eventually, on November the 21st, when you say it was bullied out of you.
Yeah.
Now, Mick, whom we now know to be one Michael Wayne Brown, shortly after these events was convicted of another crime and asked for this one to be taken into consideration, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, your present statement is not damaging Mick in any way, is it?
No, but I made it then, on the 21st. They got it out of me.
There's nothing in the officer's notes about this?
No, well, there wouldn't be, would there?
Nor on your tape?
Well, the mic broke, you heard it.
I heard a noise. Now, tell me again what you say happened.
Well, you heard, he was on me. He threw me backwards and I bumps into this table.
Low table, high table?
Coffee table.
Coffee table.
I bumps into this coffee table, which then knocks the mic over onto the floor.
Where was the microphone?
Behind some books on a shelf.
Well, surely that would simply have knocked the microphone backwards.
No, it fell on the floor.
On the floor?
Yeah.
And Detective Constable Harvey didn't see it?
No. Well, he didn't see it, did he?
Oh, so far as I'm aware, he didn't, no.
No, then I dropped the table over it.
Just like that?
Just like that. I mean, I knew the mic was there, didn't I? I saw it. I picked up the table, he thought it was for him. So he's looking at me, not crawling on the floor looking for clues, so I drops the table on the microphone.
Oh, just one moment, please. I should like at this point, my lord, with your permission, to introduce 2 further tapes.
Oh, not more tapes, Mr. Fry.
I'm sorry, my lord, but they are short ones.
Oh, very well.
Now, these 2 tapes, my lord, were made last night in my presence by Detective Constable Harvey. Could we have Exhibit 9, please?
Who is this bloody Mick? Come on, George, you've given us a run around long enough. I'm sick and tired of you holding out on us. Either you...
Thank you. And now Exhibit 10, please.
I'm tired of you holding out on us. Either you tell us his name or we'll charge you with withholding information.
My lord, this appears to be a deliberate attempt to mislead the jury.
Now, my lord, I made it quite plain that this tape was made last night. I'm simply trying to demonstrate, my lord, how easy it is to mislead by use of a tape recording. Now, the second of these 2 tapes was made first. It was then re-recorded onto another tape. Shutting off record, bringing up the mic, and then striking a sharp blow near the microphone, just after the word either, produced the first tape.
Yes. You're suggesting that the November 21st tape was doctored in this way?
The latter part of it, yes, my lord.
Could expert evidence help?
The November 21st tape is authenticated as a virgin tape, my lord. There's only one set of pressure marks. That appears on the statement from the expert, which my learned friend read at the beginning of this trial.
I appreciate that, my lord, but it would also appear that there would be only one set of pressure marks on a re-recording.
I see, so the expert evidence is equivocal. Look, Mr. Fry, you're really only disputing the piece after the word either,
yes,
aren't you?
Yes.
Well, the jury will simply have to decide about that. All right?
Thank you, my lord. Now, Mr. Granger, you've heard of these tapes. Did you doctor the November the 21st tape in that manner?
No. I wouldn't know where to start.
You've dealt in enough tape recorders, surely.
Oh, yeah, but buying and selling's one thing. I don't know nothing about the technical side, do I?
Come now, Mr. Granger, there's nothing very technical about re-recording, is there?
Well, there is if you want to get it right. You can't just use a battery cassette, you know. No, you need a professional cassette recorder, like a Wallensank with a...
Go on.
All right, I do know something about it. But that don't mean I did it, does it?
This market stall business of yours, you couldn't produce any books for the police, could you?
No, with my accountant. Oh, most of my deals is in cash. It comes in, it goes out. I can't keep track of every pound.
Mm. You were in serious financial trouble in July 1977, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. I was doing all right.
You had an overdraft of £700.
No, but I'd stock to cover that.
It's not recorded anywhere, is it?
My records ain't much cop.
Mm. In July, your van broke down. You had to hire a replacement for a month. Your debts increased to £1,200, and yet in the following month you'd paid off these debts and bought new stock. How did you do that?
Well, I had cash. Cash saved, all my savings.
It's not down here, is it? Now, this projected robbery at the warehouse, how did you come to hear about this?
People chat.
Do they? Well, they don't chat to me, Mr. Granger, about things like that. I suggest that people only chat about a serious crime like that to somebody else who's involved.
That's because you don't know. There ain't no point in knocking something off if you ain't got no outlets for it, is there?
And they saw yours one, did they?
Well, of course they did. I got a record as long as that for it.
And they still approached you, even though, as you say, you'd been going straight for 18 months.
Yeah, well, if I've got to get the police information, I've got to make out I'm back in the market, haven't I?
Why did the gang change their plan from robbing the warehouses to the lorries?
Because the police put a watch on the warehouse.
Or because you told them?
No, I didn't. It was them plodding around, setting up their little trap.
How do you know that that's why the gang changed?
Because Mick told me in the pub.
This was on the 28th of November, after the raid?
Yeah.
Mm. Did he also tell you that he'd just delivered £3,000 worth of spirits to your garage?
Yeah.
How did he get in?
In?
into the garage?
He had a key.
He had a key.
Of course he had a key. Listen, my garage was a backup place in case anything went wrong. When these two set up this little caper, I worked it just the way I always used to work it. I was a good operator. I did it just the way I always did.
Did you pay Mick for these spirits?
Yeah. I put my hand in my pocket in the middle of the saloon bar and counted out £1,001 notes. What do you think? I hardly had enough on me to buy him a drink.
And yet he was prepared to leave them with you.
He knew where to find me.
Now, shortly after this meeting, you jumped into a taxi, didn't you?
Yeah. And went back to my flat, Lemon Place.
Why?
Why? To get me van.
Why?
Why?
Why did you go in your van?
'Cause I ain't got a car.
Well, why didn't you go straight there by taxi?
I didn't want to go by taxi.
Why not?
I don't know. I don't know what I was doing, to tell the truth. I felt guilty. If that's what you want me to say, then I did. How would you feel if you found your garage full of stolen booze and you had a record like mine? You wouldn't exactly feel innocent, would you? I didn't know what to do, and when I phoned the station, I couldn't get hold of them two. I hadn't a clue what to do.
Where did you phone from?
From the pub before I got the taxi.
There's no record of that.
No, well, there wouldn't be. I didn't say who I was.
Why not?
Because they told me not to. They said you're working for our firm now and you don't talk to no one else.
But it would have covered you, wouldn't it? Giving your name over the phone. Isn't that the simple, obvious thing to do, instead of driving over there in your van?
Yes, of course it is. It's obvious now, but it wasn't at the time. What I was scared about was getting fitted out by some other copper because I knew they weren't official. I knew they were going over the line. I knew that. That's why, when I saw them, I said, boy, am I glad to see you. And then they nicked me.
Tomorrow, you can join us again when the case of the Queen against Granger will be concluded in the Crown Court. Did George Granger dishonestly receive £3,000 worth of whiskey, gin and vodka? Or was he, as he claims, working with Detective Sergeant Street and Detective Constable Harvey in a scheme to trap the criminals, a scheme which went badly wrong? Granger's counsel is asking Granger, a street market trader with an admitted prison record, about his financial state before the alleged offence.
My learned friend has pointed to the accounts of your business and said that in the middle of 77 you were in serious financial trouble.
Well, that's not true.
Yet you had this trouble with the van, debts totalling over £1,200 and no assets.
Well, I had cash to cover those debts.
It's not shown in the books, is it?
Look, do I have to go into
This
all
was cash not disclosed, was it?
Yeah. Well, everybody in the market does it. It's all cash in the hand, see? If it goes through the books, you have to pay income tax. Everybody in the market does it.
Yeah. Your books are worthless as a truthful record, are they?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I can explain.
No, you're not here for tax evasion, Mr. Granger.
No, Your Honour.
There are, of course, other authorities who may wish to speak to you about that. All right, Mrs. Harker.
Once again and for the last time, Mr. Granger, on the early morning of November the 29th, when you drove up to your garage, had you any intention of concealing those bottles of spirits and of selling them?
No. Look, I've done some really stupid things in my time. But if I was going to double-cross the police, I wouldn't be dumb enough to use my own lock-up, now would I?
Does your lordship have any more questions?
No, you may return to the dock, Mr. Granger.
I call Angela Barton.
I do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Angela Christine Barton. You live at 18 Jarrett House, Fulchester, and you are a schoolteacher. Is that all correct?
Yes.
Do you know the defendant?
Yes.
How did you meet him?
I'm a voluntary associate, which means that I visit people in prison and help them when they come out. Well, I try to help them.
You helped Mr. Granger when he came out of Coombe Prison in January of 76?
I did, yes.
Did he contact you again in September of 77?
Yes, he told me he was being blackmailed by the police.
That was the word he used.
Can't remember, probably not, but it was certainly the gist of it. I was highly sceptical at first, but they did seem to be making a meal out of this rather trivial Sunday trading thing, and it could have seriously damaged everything he'd built up. So I suggested he try to tape record a conversation. For each of the first 2 recordings, I bought tapes, new tapes, and set up the recording. And then I watched Mr. Granger's flat while Street and Harvey visited it on the 25th of October and the 10th of November. After the visits, I sealed the tapes.
And what did you intend to do with them?
Well, play them to the policeman's superior officer. Their actions were inexcusable. They forced an ex-criminal at a critical period of his life, when he was going straight for the first time in his life, to associate with known criminals.
Miss Barton, whatever you may feel about their behaviour, the policemen are not on trial here today.
Tomorrow, I hope.
Miss Barton, you won't help the defence with remarks like that.
Well, it's disgusting. They've set him up for the whole thing.
Look, I shan't warn you again. Why didn't you turn those tapes over to the authorities?
For the simple reason that he wouldn't let me.
Who wouldn't?
Mr. Granger.
I thought that was the whole idea of making them.
Well, it was indeed, my lord, but when it came to it, when he actually heard the playback, he was frightened.
Frightened? Well, of what?
The police.
The police?
He thought they'd win in the end. They'll find a way to get back at me, he said. Look, I know it's tiresome of him, but he doesn't think like you and me. He doesn't have our views of the police as friendly protectors.
Yes, all right, yes. Go on, please, Miss Harker.
He wouldn't let you take the tapes?
No, it was his decision. I'll think about it, leave it for the moment, he said. I'm afraid that is Mr. Granger. Leave it for the moment and it'll all go away.
What was your reaction to that?
Well, I told him he was a stupid idiot. I told him if he went on skating on thin ice between the police and his old friends, he'd land up where he is now.
When did you next see him?
I met him the following week, Thursday, the 17th of November, I think it was.
Did he tell you that he was seeing Mick and getting more and more involved?
No, but I knew something was up.
How?
He clammed up on me. I asked him once more to let me have the tapes, and he said he'd decide by the weekend.
Did he?
No.
When did you next hear from him?
The night of November the 21st.
The night that the 3rd tape was made?
Yes. He telephoned me. He said that Laurel and Hardy had just been. It was difficult to make out what he was saying.
Why?
He was incoherent. He was, well, crying. He's just kicked by one lot or the other, you see.
Just tell us what you remember him saying, would you?
He said that Hardy had worked on him. He said, I'm working for the police now.
You're absolutely sure about that?
Of course I'm sure. He said it enough times. He was hysterical. Squealer Granger, he said. I'm Squealer Granger. I've told them who Mick is.
Did he tell you who Mick really was?
Yes, he did. Mick Brown. I knew who he was talking about, vaguely.
He said these things to you on the telephone on November the 21st. You're positive it was that date?
I'm absolutely positive it was Monday the 21st. There's no doubt about it whatsoever.
Thank you, Miss Barton.
Miss Barton, did the defendant stay with you in your flat at Jarrett House for a time?
How did you know that?
It's true then, is it?
Yes, but...
When was that?
When he left prison, he had nowhere else to go. It was January 1976.
February, too, I think.
Well, it was 4 or 5 weeks altogether, perhaps 6. But I strongly object to the way you're seeking to imply that there was some kind of a...
Counsel's questions, will you please?
I shall, don't worry.
Miss Barton, you are not here to lecture this court. Do you understand?
Yes, my lord.
Right, Mr. Barton.
Thank you, my lord. Does a voluntary associate normally associate to that extent?
My lord, I do feel that my client is being subjected to unpleasant innuendo here. I suggest that if my learned friend wants to know whether the witness has or has not had a romantic or even a sexual relationship with the defendant, he asks her.
Yes, Mr. Fry?
My lord, that appears to be something in the mind of the witness and my learned friend. It's not in mine. I'm pursuing quite a different line.
Then pursue it without innuendo, will you please, Mr. Fry?
Of course not. Does a voluntary associate normally put up an ex-prisoner in his or her home?
It can happen.
But it's unusual, is it?
Yes. But I'm rather unorthodox. and very committed to this kind of work.
To an extent that many of your colleagues would agree with.
Well, they believe in keeping their private lives separate, yes. It's supposed to be more professional, whatever that might mean.
So you gave him a room for a month and a half.
I've said so.
You obtained a loan for him so that he could buy a van.
I stood security. He paid the loan back, every penny.
Now, have a look at this, would you please? This is Exhibit 11, my lord.
Oh, my God.
Now, this is an interview with you in the Fulchester Chronicle in which you describe various case histories.
I'm afraid it is, yes.
Would you read the marked passage A, please?
People are frightened of ex-cons becoming dependent, but they don't want just to be given words. They need warmth, affection, cash, a roof, a job.
Your words.
Rather banal, but I did say them, yes.
Now, the most conspicuous success of this sort of commitment is the individual referred to in the interview by the pseudonym of Jim. Is that, in fact, the defendant?
I can't answer that. It's confidential.
Well, you must answer that, Miss Barton. If you don't answer the question, you'll be in contempt of court.
Well, I suppose everyone must know the answer's yes now anyway. Yes, it is him. Yes.
Read the second marked passage, please.
What is success in this field? It's the hardest question of all to answer. But look at Jim. Borstal, 6 prison sentences. Everyone had given him up. Now he's been over a year out of prison, is running a successful little business.
Your words.
Yes.
In fact, in the circle in which you move, Mr. Granger, a recidivist or persistent offender, as we now know, whom everybody else had given up, has become your star turn. Rather a success for you and your unorthodox approach. Would I be right in saying that?
If you think that I'd be stupid enough to come here and perjure myself because of this, then you are... Well, I'm sorry, but this really is too ridiculous.
Once again, I think, Miss Barton, you're jumping to a conclusion that my mind hasn't reached. I'm very, very far from suggesting that. But I am suggesting that perhaps you may have been a little blinded.
Blinded?
Yes. Now, one thing puzzles me about that evening, that crucial evening of November the 21st, when the third tape was made. Now, you didn't see that tape, did you?
No, as I've told you before. He telephoned me.
Now, I can't remember. Did you tell us at what time he telephoned?
8:30, or not much after.
8:30. Were you doing anything that evening?
No. Oh, I was washing my hair, if that's at all relevant.
Did you go and see him?
No.
Did he come and see you?
No.
Did you suggest meeting?
No.
Well, isn't that rather strange? I mean, it's 8:30 in the evening, you're not doing anything in particular. You receive this highly emotional phone call from somebody who, as has been described, had become very important to you, and you deal with the whole thing on the telephone.
Well, if you do this kind of work, you don't go flying out at every phone call.
But you're exactly the kind of lady who does, aren't you, Miss Barton? From your own words. Not even to hear the third tape. Did you hear that tape at all before Mr. Granger was taken into custody?
No. Oh, all right, I told you I'd tell you the truth, and I will tell it. Of course I told him I'd drop everything and come right round. I always do, but he said no. He'd had enough. He'd had enough of the police, his old friends, and me preaching at him, everyone telling him what to do. He said that he'd handle something on his own for once in his life.
He didn't want to see you.
He was afraid that I'd persuade him to hand over the tapes.
Afraid?
He was terrified of what the police might do to him later.
Well, that's your interpretation, isn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, you don't know why he didn't want to see you, do you?
Oh, good God, I was practically shouting to him down the phone. The tapes will have to come out now. And he shouted back, no, they'll get me for something. Sunday trading, armed robbery, spitting in the street. That's what he said. I've just got to go through with this job and I shall be all right.
Which job?
The job for the police.
The 2 police witnesses have testified that at that time there was no such job.
Then they're lying.
Has Mr. Granger never lied to you?
Yes. But I know when he is and when he isn't. And he wasn't lying then.
Well, with respect, Miss Barton, I suggest to you that he was lying when he said that he was working with the police. And he lied because he was, in fact, working with the criminals in this robbery, and he couldn't very well tell you that. Now, that's a much more feasible reason for not wanting to hand over the tapes, isn't it? I suggest that he didn't want you round at his place on November the 21st, because that would give him an opportunity to doctor that tape. And I suggest further that you suspected that, and that was the real reason for the row between you, wasn't it?
No.
Now, in the week leading up to the robbery, when, if what you say is true, he must have been at a real crisis point, did you see him at all?
No. He didn't want to see me.
Did you try to phone him?
I must have picked up the phone about 20 times, but I didn't call him. I thought if I kept away from him, he'd stop being so stupid and bring the tapes out into the open. And then this happened.
Do you feel guilty about that? About keeping away, then?
Yes. I suppose I do, yes.
Now, assuming for the moment, Miss Barton, if you can, that Mr. Granger is guilty, do you still feel that he should not be punished because, as you see it, police pressure exposed him to this crime? Do you feel that?
I do feel that, yes.
And would you lie to this court because of that moral justification?
No. I would under no circumstances do that.
Now, you've had numerous conversations with the defendant about his relationships with the police, both before and after his arrest. How can you be sure that it was on this particular day, November the 21st, that this particular conversation, I've told them who Mick is, I'm working with the police, took place?
Because I never normally wash my hair on a Monday. It was that evening, and he did say that.
Did you talk to anybody else about this?
No.
You have connections with other voluntary associates and with the probationary service, don't you?
Yes.
And yet you went to no one for help or advice when Mr. Granger, as you would have us believe, was being forced to work with the police and associate with criminals against his will.
Well, I thought I could handle it by myself. I'd had the tapes made.
But not played, Miss Barton.
I've told you about that.
No further questions, Bernard.
The week after Detective Constable Harvey and Detective Sergeant Street's visit on the 21st of November, you didn't see Mr. Granger at all during that week?
No.
Had you given him up completely?
Of course I hadn't. I knew what he was going through. I was waiting, hoping that he'd see sense. I was going to wait until a couple of days before the deadline.
Deadline?
Well, this robbery that was planned on the warehouse.
You knew when that was planned?
I knew what he'd told me. First week in December. I thought that if he didn't bring the tapes out by then, there was still time for me to do something.
What did you intend to do?
Well, I don't know. There were three possibilities that I turned over and over. One was to barge into the flat and bully the tapes out of Georgie, Mr. Granger, which I knew I could do, but didn't want to because, well, that's what everyone else has always done to him. He doesn't trust authority, you see. I can't seem to get it through to you any more than I could get it through to him that there is some kind of justice, at least in a blatant case like this.
The second possibility?
Was to go to the police. I didn't want to do that because I didn't think he'd ever have trusted to get me again. The third was to go to Graham Rand. He's the senior probation officer who acts as consultant to the group of voluntary associates to which I belong. I didn't want to do that because, well, we don't quite see eye to eye.
Are you saying that you would have done one of these three things?
Oh, certainly. Yes. Probably the first. But then the whole thing blew up. Took me by surprise. Just as I imagine it took them.
Thank you, Miss Barton. My lord?
You may leave the witness box, Miss Barton. Sure.
Members of the jury, there is one central fact in this case which is not in dispute, and it is the most important one. The defendant was found in possession of stolen goods. He was told about these stolen goods by an associate and says he phoned the police, but the police have no record of that. Now, it's important for you to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the defendant is a very experienced criminal. He must have known the danger he was in. Surely, if he really was innocent, he would have at least have got in touch with his friend in time of need. Miss Barton. But he didn't phone her. And I suggest he didn't phone the police either. For the simple reason that he wasn't in trouble. He was finding that things were turning out for him very well. He had the goods, and he'd covered his tracks, in case of trouble, with the tape recordings. Now, these tape recordings, ladies and gentlemen, have to be seen in context. A brutal series of serious crimes was involved, and Mr. Granger was a known criminal who could help the police. On the second of these two tape recordings, a plan was discussed whereby Mr. Granger would pose as a receiver of stolen goods. But the two police officers say that there is no record of that, and that on November the 21st, a week before the robbery, any such plan was totally dismissed. Now, is it likely, ladies and gentlemen, that two experienced police officers would enter into such a scheme with a man as untrustworthy as Mr. Granger, a man who, by his own account, is an habitual liar? Can you believe that his tape recording of November the 21st is true? Can you believe he told the truth to his friend, Miss Barton? She says that he told her on November the 21st that he was working with the police. I'm sure he did. But how can you tell that he was telling her the truth? After November the 21st, he didn't go near her. And why? Because he'd gone back into his old ways again. And I suggest that she suspected this, and that was the real cause of the row between them. She knew that he'd taken to crime again. She knew he was guilty. And I invite you to find accordingly.
Members of the jury, imagine this case without those tape recordings. If George Granger had stood in that dock and reported Detective Constable Harvey as saying, "We don't want to lock you up, but we've got to lock up someone, and soon," would you have believed him? But it is on a tape which is not disputed. Now, these tapes, you may think, are a frightening insight into the life of a criminal, an ex-criminal, who on the one hand is being pressurized by criminals, and on the other by the police to inform. Would you tell the truth if by the revealing the name of a criminal you might be marked by a knife? And then again, if you had somebody like Detective Constable Harvey standing over you, you'd have to say something, wouldn't you? Is it surprising that George Granger lied? Now consider some of the facts my learned friend didn't mention. Granger leaves prison, he's out of trouble for 18 months. Then the police search his stall without a warrant. The following week, Granger is at the station on a petty inquiry about contravening the Shops Act. The police blackmail him. It's a serious assertion, but you heard those tapes. They are going to see him inside unless he turns informer. I had a plan for George Granger to set himself up as a buyer for £3,000 worth of stolen spirits. And what is he charged with? Receiving exactly that amount. Now, the fact that the job went off unexpectedly early in a different place can hardly be laid at George Granger's door. Yet that is precisely what the police are doing. Remember, they've been after these criminals for months. They've got nowhere. They've stuck their necks out. They could be severely disciplined. They could even lose their jobs. Under these circumstances, they might even convince themselves that George Granger had double-crossed them, and remember, it was on those tapes, they've got to lock up someone. They lock up George Granger. And lastly, my learned friend points to the guilty behaviour of the defendant when he finds that the stolen goods are in his garage. Well, if you had a criminal record and you found £3,000 worth of the stolen spirits in your garage, wouldn't you feel a little nervous? I suggest to you that the prosecution have not even begun to dispute my client's assertion that he was not acting dishonestly. Your verdict, therefore, must be one of not guilty.
There is one aspect of this case that I must warn you about. The behavior of the police may be the concern of other authorities, but it is not your concern. Neither is it your concern whether George Granger was unfairly used or pressurized or tempted. The sole question that you are to consider is not, was the defendant tempted, but did he succumb? Now, it's not disputed by the prosecution that Granger, before the 21st of November, was involved in this police scheme to catch these criminals. It must be described as a scheme and not a speculative idea, since the defendant had seen Mick before that date and reported back. Now, I suggest that you ask yourselves the following questions. Did the scheme end on November the 21st? Now, Miss Barton's evidence is important here. If you believe her and Granger, who told her that the scheme was on, then you may think that the goods were delivered to Granger's garage as part of a police scheme, albeit unofficial, which went wrong. If you decide no, the scheme ended on November the 21st, you must still ask yourselves this. Had Granger become so hopelessly entangled before that date, or could he have got out of it if he had really wanted to? If on balance you think he could have got out of it, then this may be an indication that he was tempted to profit dishonestly from it. So your final question must be, what was George Granger's intention when he learned that those goods had been placed in his garage? The prosecution has the burden of proof and must have convinced you so that you're sure that that intention was actually dishonest before you can find him guilty. Now, will you please retire? Elect a foreman to speak for you and consider your verdict.
Will the foreman please stand? Just answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict upon which we're all agreed?
Yes.
And do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty of dishonestly handling stolen goods?
Not guilty.
Very well, Mr. Granger, you're free to go.
The court will rise.
The cases in Fulchester Crown Court are fictitious, but the jury is composed of members of the general public.